When two tired souls finally stopped running, the restaurant shimmered under warm amber lights, the kind that made every polished surface glow. At a secluded corner table sat Elias Mercer, a 40-year-old real estate magnate whose name opened doors in every major city. To him, however, none of it mattered anymore. Success had never felt so heavy. He checked his watch again, debating whether to leave. This blind date, arranged by his relentless assistant, Paige, was his last attempt before giving up on love altogether. 30 minutes, Elias murmured to himself. I'll give her 30 minutes, then I'm done with all this. He was tired of women who saw his money first, his penthouse second, and his connections third. And never, not once, him. He stood up, ready to walk out, when the door opened, and she stepped in. A woman in a simple lilac dress, her dark curls tied with a ribbon. A canvas tote slung over her shoulder as if she'd come straight from work and hadn't had time to change. She looked both hopeful and terrified, clearly out of place among crystal chandeliers and quiet violins. Her eyes scanned the room, landed on him, froze. She walked over, steadier than her expression. Elias Mercer? Yes. He rose automatically. And you are? Aubrey Hale. Her voice was soft, but honest in a way that disarmed him instantly. She sat, smoothing her dress nervously. Thank you for agreeing to this. Paige said you're difficult to convince. That's one word for it, Elias replied. Aubrey smiled, gently, like someone who didn't smile often, but still tried. She warned me you don't trust easily. I have my reasons. So do I. Her fingers brushed the handle of her tote bag, and she hesitated before adding, I'm a youth counselor. Most men lose interest after I tell them I don't make six figures. That caught him off guard. You help kids? Someone has to. Not many people want the job, and even fewer want someone who chose it. She said it without bitterness, just truth, and Elias found himself listening, really listening. The conversation that was never supposed to happen. Aubrey told him about the teens she worked with, a boy sleeping in his car, yet still showing up to school, a girl who wrote anonymous letters about her family's battles with addiction, a quiet boy who'd never said a word in counseling, but always drew suns on the corner of every paper. She spoke with a mix of exhaustion, fire, humor, and heartbreak. And then it was his turn. He spoke about the pressure of a company he didn't ask to inherit, the loneliness of being surrounded by people who wanted everything except his heart, and the way success isolated him from every genuine connection. And at one point, Aubrey leaned closer and asked, Who are you, Elias? When you're not wealthy. No one had ever asked him that. He swallowed. A man who used to compose music and hasn't touched a piano in years. Why did you stop? Because the world expects me to be busy. Do you ever feel hollow? She asked quietly. He inhaled sharply, all the time. Their eyes met for a moment too long. Something shifted, a small, fragile crack in the armor he'd been wearing for decades. The moment everything changed, Aubrey looked around the luxurious interior and sighed. This place is beautiful, but not real. You feel like a stranger here. Where would you rather be? She grinned suddenly, unexpectedly. There's a food truck near my office that sells the best grilled cheese sandwiches in the state. $5. No violins, no gold plates, just real people and hot sandwiches. Elias surprised himself by standing. Then what are we doing here? 15 minutes later, they were sitting on the hood of his car, eating grilled cheese in the cold night air, laughing like old friends. And Elias thought, This is the first real moment I've had in years. A love that wasn't supposed to happen. They began dating slowly, cautiously. Aubrey refused expensive gifts, wouldn't let him pay for every dinner, called him out when he tried to hide behind work. You've built a fortress around your heart, she told him once. It's safe, but it's not a home. He didn't know whether to be annoyed or grateful. She dragged him to youth events, where teenagers asked bold questions like, Are you rich? Do rich people get sad? Can I have your car? He loved every minute of it. She taught him honesty. He taught her trust. Together, they taught each other how to breathe again. The proposal. 2 years after that blind date, Elias brought her back to the same food truck, now parked in a different neighborhood. He handed her a small velvet box. Aubrey. I spent years being surrounded by people, but feeling like I was drowning alone. You were the first person who saw past everything, past money, past the walls, past the mess, and into me. You made me whole." She covered her mouth, trying not to cry. "You taught me," Elias continued, "that the world isn't asking me to be impressive. It's asking me to be real." He opened the box. A simple, elegant ring. Nothing extravagant, exactly what she'd love. "Will you marry me?" She whispered, "Yes. Yes, Elias. God, yes." And she kissed him with the kind of love that comes only once in a lifetime. The twist, the beautiful one. A year later, they had a daughter, Serafina. Quiet, observant, born with her mother's gentle eyes and her father's curious mind. When Serafina turned 3, she crawled onto Elias's lap while he played the piano for the first time in over 15 years. She placed her tiny hand on his shoulder and said, "Daddy, that sounds like sunshine." And that night, Elias finished a melody he began writing at 17. He titled it, "For Aubrey and the Girl Who Brought the Light Back." It became the most cherished piece of music he ever created. And whenever people asked, "What did Aubrey give you?" he answered, "She gave me back the part of myself I thought life had killed." Aubrey would smile and say, "And he gave me what I'd never found before, a love honest enough to stay." Final line, the one meant to give chills. Because sometimes the soul you meet at your breaking point isn't a coincidence. It's the universe returning the person you were always meant to love, right when your heart is finally quiet enough to hear them.